Governor Palin speaks up and rips the Obama administration this weekend.
The only future that Barack Obama is trying to win is his own re-election.
And Sarah Palin is here live.
There is no question. He's got a certificate of live birth that is recognized by the State
exactly
Department.
what you're getting at.
Media bias is now on display as the Obama-mania media interviews potential GOP candidates. And the anointed one goes on the defensive as his poll numbers hit an all-time low. Dana Perino and Stuart Varney react. Plus, Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann weighs in on the debate over the president's birth certificate.
The president has neglected to focus on answering that question for people.
We are on the road to 2012, and Hannity starts right here, right now.
And the names Trump and Palin have been the two most talked about people in politics in recent weeks. The duo pulled no punches in separate Tea Party speeches over the weekend as they harshly criticized President Barack Obama's handling of both foreign and domestic issues alike. And in a moment, I'll be joined live by Governor Sarah Palin. But first, earlier today, Donald Trump appeared on Good Morning America and once again raised questions about President Obama's birth certificate. Let's take a look.
There's a real question about the birth certificate. There's a real question about his own citizenship.
There is no question. He's got a certificate of live birth that is recognized by the State Department.
I know exactly what you're getting at. The facts. For some reason, no, they're not the facts. He doesn't have a birth certificate, or he hasn't provided. He's given a certificate of live birth. It's a much different
certificate of live birth meets the standard of the State Department for anyone's citizenship.
George,
there were contemporaneous reports in two Hawaiian newspapers given as no, those are the facts.
George,
sir.
they've co-opted you.
Who's they?
It's not obviously Obama and his minions.
Now, Mr. Trump also appeared on the Today Show this morning and had some kind words about my next guest. Let's take a look.
I really respect her a lot. She's got a tremendous energy and a tremendous following. I think that she's been very unfairly treated.
All right, so good. Palin, Trump, an alliance be forming. Here to answer that question and much more, Fox News contributor, former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. Governor, out there in the warm weather, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you, and happy Easter week, Sean.
And happy Easter week to you. Well, first of all, I think his characterization was 100% right. When he said he respects you a lot, you have tremendous energy, a great following, and that you've been unfairly treated. You guys are you've been going back and forth. You had some kind words to say about him and the legitimacy of this question that he's raising. What do you think about the issue in general?
Well, first, I do have respect for Donald Trump and for his candidness. I think people are craving that today in the world of political speak that we're coming out of the White House and the confusing messages that come from so many of our politicos. We appreciate that Donald Trump is so candid. Donald Trump is the one being really treated unfairly, I'd say, though, in the press when they're hammering him about the one issue that he has brought up and not been shy about, and that's the birth certificate. He's merely answering reporters' questions about his view on the birth certificate, and then reporters turn that around and saying that's all he's got. He's only running on a birth certificate issue when that's not the case. Donald Trump is running on the issue, bottom line, that President Obama is so far over his head. He has gotten us on the road to bankruptcy and insolvency and a less secure nation, and Trump and so many of us want to do something about that.
Yeah, I watched the interview, and it was interesting to me because Donald Trump kept saying, I don't want to talk about this. I'm dealing with China. I'm dealing with trade imbalances, oil dependency issues, and all of this, and you keep asking me about it. And it was interesting to watch Stephanopoulos interrupt him no fewer than 7 times, and in all the time that Barack Obama ran for president. He was asked one question about Bill Ayers, gave speeches with him, sat on boards with him, started his campaign in his house. You've experienced this double standard. You think it's going to continue through 2012?
Well, it certainly will continue if candidates allow it to continue. Candidates need to remember that they have control over the message, especially, thank God, in this day and age of the social media and fair and balanced reporters who are out there wanting to just inform the public. You can talk to them, and you don't have to give the time of day to those who are so obviously biased. Yeah, I was thinking back, too, on some of those interviews that Obama had given back when he was a candidate and the inconsistencies that he spewed back then, and reporters didn't follow up. Remember, he told Charlie Gibson back in 2008 that he would increase capital gains taxes even if it didn't result in more revenue coming into the feds, just in order to be more fair to taxpayers. An issue like that is so relevant today as we see Obama now starting to flirt with this idea of increasing taxes on everybody should have been followed up back then as a candidate. Certainly now, he, as our president, he needs to be asked these tough questions.
I watched your speech over the weekend, and then I reread the transcript, and I thought this was one of the most hard-hitting speeches you gave, more than anything else, against the Republicans. And you went through their promise when they were running in 2010 was, hey, elect us, $100 billion we're going to cut. That got prorated to 61. The deal came out to 38, they said 38.5. Then it was 28.5. And then you rightly pointed out, in the end, we're told, according to those that actually, fact-checked it, it was only 345 billion, not even a trillion. I'm sorry, 352 million, not a billion.
352, right.
Yeah. So the question is, and then you went on to say that that's not courage, that's capitulation, and you said, we didn't elect you just to rearrange the deck chairs on a sinking Titanic. Pretty strong words for fellow Republicans.
Right, and I say it with all due respect to those Republicans who, they got elected with that promise that they would rein in government growth and the overreach and the overborrowing and overspending that President Obama has so embraced. We can't afford to have any of the GOP in there or the old blue dog Democrats, the Reagan Democrats, be a part of Obama's very radical agenda, which, as I say, is putting us on the road to bankruptcy. We are flat broke. It makes absolutely no sense to capitulate and say, okay, we'll throw in cowboy poetry and pretty monuments and more museums and maybe some road projects that we don't need. Certainly some services provided by the feds that maybe states could be providing instead of the feds. So many things that are thrown into this budget, and yet we feel that we need to, strike a deal with the losing party? The party just lost in 2010. And the problem right now, Sean, seems to be that the GOP leadership seems to be a little bit hesitant to understand that there was a mandate in the 2010 election, and that was we were going to send a new freshman class into Congress to start cleaning things up, shrinking government, and allowing the private sector to thrive.
See, I agree with you. I think this was a bad deal, and I think this was a broken promise, and I think there was too great a fear that they would be blamed for a government shutdown. You even took it a step further. You said, we didn't elect you for this. We elected you to fight. And you know what? Maybe you need to learn how to fight like the girls' hockey team in Wisconsin that won the championship. So it was pretty harsh words for you. What should they have done? What should they have done, in your estimation, that would have been the right thing that you would have supported?
Well, first they need to acknowledge that really even a $100 billion cut down to $61 billion, down to $38 billion, down to really less than $1 billion, that's not even a cut. We need to remember that this year's budget is more than last year's budget. We are still at record-smashing levels of spending other people's money in the federal government. So nothing is being cut. We're taking back a little bit of what Obama is requesting in terms of government growth, but it still isn't a cut. So the GOP needs to first acknowledge that and then be so committed to telling Obama, no, the 2010 election was a mandate. Tea Party Americans are the ones who led that mandate, where, no, things were not going to be done the same way as they had been done in the past. And now we enter a new ring, Sean, and in that new ring comes the fight for the debt ceiling. And there needs to be an understanding in the GOP leadership that we cannot provide another tool for the liberals to just incur more debt. And that's what raising the debt ceiling is going to allow again.
All right, I'm hearing rumors that they're telling their private caucus that they're lowering expectations and inferring they're not going to fight. When we come back, Governor, I want to ask you, what happens if they don't fight? What will be the reaction of the people that voted him into office? We'll have much more with Governor Palin straight ahead. But first, it's time for our text voting poll. Tonight we're asking if you think that Donald Trump, who we interviewed on this program last week, is actually going to run for president. And you can text us from your mobile phone, 36288. Type H1 if you say yes, you think he's going to run. H2 if you think no, he won't. And H3 if you're not sure. We got the answers at the end of the show. And later, Minnesota Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann is here in studio to talk about her potential run for the White House. Also, Dana Perino, Stuart Varney, much more on this edition of Hannity. Straight ahead.